All right, everyone, now we've got a very, very funny story to talk about, which is Claire McCaskill has been pounded by two separate scandals in the last few days, a la Project Veritas. Of course, they managed to embed some people in her campaign, and they not only talked to, like, staffers and aides, but actually to the candidate herself. And she's like, yeah, basically, I'll vote for all sorts of gun control. I take money from these groups that, don't declare it maybe on the surface. So she's having some problems, and a lot of times it looks like the Missouri local and state media is actually reporting fairly fairly on this. Like, they're providing her counter statement, but they're also saying, hey, here's the clip from the Veritas releases. They've generated a huge amount of traffic. This is sort of an October-ish surprise because remember, McCaskill, one of the top-ranking vulnerable Democrats in the Senate. If she gets knocked out, it's a bellwether for the Democrats lose in the Senate races. By and large, the Republicans gain support. McCaskill really is the tipping point. McCaskill gets them to 51. The races that are safe or lean significantly enough towards Republican side to be safe or safe-ish, that's at 50 right now. That means they would break even, more or less. If they knock McCaskill out, which now looks better than, I'd say a 60-40 chance that they do. It's pretty good odds. That gives them 51. They win in the Senate. But now McCaskill's come out. In the immediate wake of the two releases, she basically said, well, this is fraud. I condemn this. This is highly abnormal to happen in an election, which it isn't. Hidden videos are taken all the time. Now she's demanding her opponent, who happens to be the Attorney General of Missouri, Josh Hawley, to literally open an investigation into fraud by Project Veritas. And Project Veritas is like, look, all we did, we infiltrated your campaign to do journalism. It's something that nobody else apparently does anymore. By the way, correct. James O'Keefe does journalism. This is what investigative journalism is supposed to be about. Look, if Hawley's campaign were, invaded by somebody who was pretending to be like a supporter, and they get hidden video of Josh Hawley saying, yeah, I like to kick puppies all day or something, and it were released, do you think Claire McCaskill would be calling for an investigation? Of course not. It's partisan bullshit. The Republicans would act the same way. If one of their campaigns was infiltrated by some group, they releases like hidden video. Here's John McCain being channeled by the candidate using dark witchcraft or something. Here he is pissing into the Skull Bowl. It would definitely be widely released. It would be used in campaign ads, and that's what's happening. But here's the other thing. Hawley is Claire McCaskill's opponent. Would it not be a conflict of some sort if Hawley were to open an investigation into this? Wouldn't it be a little bit of a conflict? Now, of course, in the normal proceedings of being an attorney general, he can't randomly open an investigation without probable cause. The idea that it is illegal to misrepresent yourself in order to talk to campaign staffers in a state that I believe is a one-party consent state with regards to recording people, no crime. There can't be a crime. What crime was committed? The fraud does not apply in that sense. Oh yeah, I want to volunteer for the campaign. Oh, well, I'm not actually here to volunteer. I'm here to do some digging. That's not fraud. Misrepresenting yourself in that context, you haven't gained any money by it, presumably. You haven't won some paid position based on misrepresenting yourself. How is it a fraud case? It's not going to work. The worst that could happen is defamation, but the thing is, it's Claire McCaskill and her people in their own words. That's not defamation either. There's literally no criminal charge that would stick. Hawley knows this. Claire McCaskill's hoping it'll look bad for him not to open an investigation that he simply physically cannot open. By the way, Esteval the other day, oh, didn't you know that Project Veritas, they edit all their videos to high hell? No, they don't. They've released all sorts of raw footage before, too. This is Claire McCaskill speaking here. The whole thing is right there, I'm assuming. One of two things is true. In the case of these people that are trying to defend McCaskill, they either didn't watch the full video, don't realize that it's not selectively edited, or they watched it and they're just trying to cover for it because they're terrified. They're terrified the Republicans will hold the Senate, and not just hold it, but then there are 6 other vulnerable races. The Republicans win one of them and they make a gain in the Senate. They probably statistically win half because they're about 50-50 in each of these 6 races. They come out with 54 seats. Where's the fucking blue wave, dude? They could come out with 56. I'm expecting. Up until recently, I would have said 52 to 53. That's what I expected. I expected mild gains. Now I'm expecting between 53 and 54. I expect the gains to be larger, specifically because not just of McCaskill. You got to realize Florida was looking like a lost cause. Now it's looking like it's a 50-50 race again. That's good for the Republicans. Ted Cruz pulled handily ahead. He's going to beat Beto O'Rourke, so that's now a lean Republican race as opposed to basically a toss-up. That's good for the Republicans. What's the problem? Republicans have no problem as far as the Senate goes, and keep in mind, they might narrowly lose the House. They're being outraised and outspent 2 or 3 to 1 right now because of Soros money on House races. They released a chart the other day showing that. Like the amount is monumental. Like you've never seen this kind of spending in House races on either side really before. On the Democratic side especially, far outflanking the Republicans. And a lot of it's corporate money. And the funny thing is they act like it's like grandma donations. Like, oh yeah, I donated $5 for my Social Security pension. No, it's more like I donated $5 million from my corporate holdings. It's more like I donated $1 million for my banking holdings. It's more like, hey, here's a 5-figure sum, and I'll give you another one next month. It'll just make it recurrent for the next year because, we got to stop evil Trump. He's Orange Man. He's bad. That's basically how it's working. It's hilarious. Claire McCaskill now is at very, very deep risk for losing her seat, and this is what I said. Claire McCaskill being knocked out of the Senate would be the golden egg for the Republican Party. She is the most recognizable of the vulnerable Democrats, the vulnerable incumbent Democrats. They're being outraised and outspent there. It looks like Project Veritas at the 11th hour makes sure that they win that race. Now, for those of us who are nonpartisan, this is more in my mind. The reason why I feel positively, it's a corroboration of my predictions for some months with regards at least to the Senate races. It makes it fairly certain that the Republicans don't lose control of the Senate. So I'm happy because it means my analysis is correct. It could end up being 57 seats when all is said and done, assuming that there's any clear-cut systemic polling bias in favor of the Democrats. Why wouldn't all 6 of those toss-ups, if it's 2 or 3 points, they'd all go Republican potentially? Well, that's not a red wave. That's a fucking, that's not a blue wave. That's a red tsunami. That's what's been joked about. House is a different story. That's like a 50-50 proposition at best. But Trump's approval is rising, so we have to keep our eyes on that as well. That's about all. Peace out.